seeing as you're like senior in the industry, you know, every way you started before me.
2 years.
You're still going stronger than me. I think you get the right to open the batting, Don.
Flattery.
Yeah, it works. Always works.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Well, a lovely afternoon here. My name's Helen Anderson. I know I'm supposed to I don't know if it's supposed to be anonymous or not, but I have the pleasure of interviewing the legend, Donald Pridmore. Welcome, Don.
Thank you very much, Helen. It's a pleasure to be interviewed by you, I hope.
Yes, it's a privilege. In fact, I selected to interview you. I was asked, so there we go.
Thank you.
So I guess we just have a range of questions. So one of the questions, the first of the question is why did you choose geophysics as a career and how did you get into it?
Yeah. So I was always interested in being out in the bush, and some of my earliest memories.
By your hat.
Yeah, some of my earliest memories are gold panning with my mother in the stinking heat, and she had a fly net on, and so this is when I was an early teenager. And then in my last school year, I went to see the Professor of Economic Geology, a chap called Eric Rudd, who you probably know, Owers. And I said, I'm interested in being out in the bush and was thinking about studying geology. And Eric Rudd, who was a very distinguished professor, said, my son, the future is in geophysics. As we look deeper into the earth, we're going to need something other than the techniques we've got now, and geophysics is the key. So that's why I enrolled in geology and geophysics.
What a king. What a king.
Yeah.
Eric and you.
This sounds like exactly the advice you get now. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
But back then, that was pretty astute, sort of looking into the future.
It was. But one of the comments I'd make in a situation like this is it took far longer than anyone thought for geophysics to have a real impact.
You can say to finish your degree.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was pretty conscientious.
Yeah. Well, I'll jump to that topic.
Oh, well, I think they want me to actually repeat the
question.
Well,
so we have to introduce
That's
Matt
right.
Owers,
and also, it's so Matt Owers here.
Former understudy to Dials at Mount Isa.
There you go. You beat me to the punch. I worked with Dave Isles very early on in my geophysical career, and that's why I asked specifically to interview him. And I'm just going to go racing off script here and just throw in a couple of curly ones.
Okay.
There were two things that I have endearing memories of you, Dave. And one was that there was this cocky young geologist called Alistair, and I mean, with a name like that, you're already in trouble, right?
Yeah.
And I was really impressed by the way that you kept pulling him down a notch, because it was a bit of an arrogant little fellow. Yep. And the other one was that when we started that project at Mount Isa, like you pointed out, there was no geophysicist at MIM, and as we were walking into, you're running that AerMag course, I think you'll recall, and as we were walking in there was this senior geologist standing there. I can't remember his name, and he was going on about, oh, this is going to be a waste of time. Geophysics doesn't tell you anything. I'm not going to learn anything here. And by the end of the day, we had the I think the 1 to 100 thou geology maps out with the contours overlain, the AerMag contours overlain, and I overheard him clear as a bell say, "These geology maps are wrong." And I thought, win for geophysics. We've just converted someone.
I wonder who that was. That was on my what made me get into geophysics. Well, like Don, it was kind of the love of the bush that was kind of the trigger. But I rocked up to Science 1 subject selection, 2 maths, physics, and I thought naively that you had to do chemistry. And I said to the course advisor, so I had to do chemistry. He said, no, you don't have to do chemistry. You love maths, you love physics, that's good. And there's lots of other options. There's zoology, biology, chemistry, don't have to do that. Yeah, hate that. Geology, and I said, oh, geology rocks. And I said, yeah, oh, okay, I'll do that. So that was cool. And just for the record, I did Geology 1. I worked my ass off in Geology 1 and just passed. I was a crap geologist, still am. But third term, we're sitting in the old Melbourne Uni geology building, old wooden bloody tables and stuff. and doing a prac. I forget what the prac was, but this drunken bloody strat lecturer came in. Wanted, oh, stop. Now, pay attention. Now, who wants to do geophysics in third year? What's geophysics? He said, I don't know. It's something to do with maths and physics and geology. I think so. So myself and a couple of others sort of just put out there. Oh yeah, that sounds all right. So that's how I got into geology. So I'll kick back to Helen and Don.
Well, it's interesting about Don saying we got into geophysics because I wanted to do geophysics, and but I decided I didn't want to traipse all the way across to Curtin University because that was the other side of the city in Perth. So I did a geology degree, got my first job as a mine geo, and went, oh bugger, what have I done? I'm not very good at rocks either. So Don, I don't know if you recall, but you actually were my supervisor in my geophysics honours. I did a geophysics honours, taught myself geophysics in the guidance of you, and then much of the thing of it was UWA geophysics honours, even though they didn't offer it, and that's how I got into geophysics because of your guidance, really. So I think I actually beat Alistair into Aerodata.
Maybe.
Because in 1990, I got packed off to Canada.
Yeah. So
Yes.
Helen, you modestly admitted the fact that you were the first geophysical student to get the economic geology prize at UWA in honours year.
Yeah, but yeah, I've always been on the cusp. Geology and geophysics, I fool them all.
Well done.
Yeah. So, I guess following other question on is how did that education that you got when that wise person told you to go and do geophysics, how did that prepare you for your career that you've had?
Yes. So, interesting question. I think that uni taught me how to think and taught me to research the facts before making a decision. They were the positives. The negatives, I didn't learn very much about thinking in 3 dimensions, which is a problem if you're in this business. And secondly, there was a notion when we went through that if you produced anything glossy, it was suspicious. What was
Still
wrong
true.
with the technical
Still true.
content? Why did you have to put pictures and colour and
who
stuff
seeded
like
that in your mind, Don? What?
Oh, we won't go
It
there.
was ridiculous, yeah. And I thought it was later. It took me a long time to throw all those ideas out. But I realised how inhibiting that approach to technical material was.
Just sounds like that's the challenging the norm all the way through, which has been your entire career, really.
Yeah, yep.
So, Dave,
Over to you.
did your education prepare you adequately for your career?
Absolutely. It was. I look back, and I sort of look at what's going on now. And I think, shit, I was lucky.
You were both at Adelaide University, weren't you?
No, I started at Melbourne, and the story. So the story was put my hand up for geophysics. Absolutely no idea what I was in for. So I did geology 1. Just passed. Thought, well, second year maybe I shouldn't do geology. So I did a shitload of maths and physics in year 2, and Melbourne then had geophysics 3. So if you like, my third year was half geophysics, half maths. The maths was a dumb idea, but that was past history. But when I think of the, Lindsay Thomas's training in third year, it was just absolutely wonderful. It was wonderful, and supported by a guy called Ian Lilly, who was a tutor, and was a kind of nerdhead computer person, but one of the best geophysicists I've ever come across. So that experience in third year was just inspirational, and I was again lucky I was lucky to do honours because I did my third year and got all the points for all the units, and that was fine, but I failed one unit. And it was kind of a deliberate thing. I just couldn't be bothered. It clashed with cricket practice or some bloody thing. And it was this really dumb subject called potential field theory. And there's other stories that ASEG don't want to know about that, but I just didn't go to lectures. And I had one of my cricket mates had done the unit the year before. So he gave me his notes, and I thought, I'll just read these the night before. And then I read them the night before. I thought, there's no point in going to the... So that was, I thought, it doesn't matter. I've got all my points. Went to see Lindsay about honours projects, and he said, oh, we've got a problem. If you failed a unit in third year, technically you're not allowed to do honours. So LT worked that out, but and I didn't have any sort of preconceived on what I wanted to do as an honours project. And buddy Peter Gunn, who was working for the Geo Survey Vic, came through the door and said, I need a sucker to do a gravity survey. And said, yep, I know how to work a gravity meter. And so I got this magic honours project. So the undergrad was just, tick, 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 everything that I needed, if you like, to start going into, if you like, hard rock exploration type geophysics. I was sort of prepared for. It was good.
Excellent. Well done. I don't know how many people can actually say that.
Well, Lindsay Thomas has got a lot to LT was good. And lucking on to Peter Gunn as a honours kind of supervisor was
outstanding.
Good. I guess, Don, this is actually one of the formal questions, but what I'm a little bit intrigued is that you went across, after you did your degree in Adelaide, you went across to the US to do your PhD.
Yeah.
So what inspired? That was what was a draw card to go to the US and do the PhD?
There was a chap called Stan Ward. So the background is I was a geologist working for Western Mining, looking for nickel. And as those who will remember, IP was all the rage back then, and it was fantastic for finding sediments, and EM was unintelligible. So the notion that we could learn something about electromagnetics and the exploration for nickel suggested a topic, and Woodall was supportive of it. So I looked around the world, and the best guy in EM was this chap Stan Ward, who was at Berkeley, and I decided to go there. But in the interim, he moved to Salt Lake City, so we ended up escaping conversion to Mormonism.
Nice,
5 years doing a PhD. Yeah. But my first job was quite interesting. It was just after Uliri was discovered, and as happens in Western mining, Woodall said, we need to find another Uliri, go out and do it. And that involved flying all the drainage systems that were draining inland. And we spent hundreds and hundreds of hours in helicopters and planes looking
Just
for
following the
Uliris.
drainage systems.
Yeah, looking for calcrete.
With spectrometers?
Yeah. And so one of my physics projects was with a spectrometer. So I was the expert technically in my first year, but also I was the only person in Western mining who could fly for 6 hours in the heat, about 20 metres off the dirt, and not throw up.
Now that's tough.
Yeah, that's saying something, Don.
Yeah. So I went for holidays for a week and came back, and the survey was meant to go on while I was not there. And I found out that it had been shut down, waiting for my return, because they couldn't find anyone who would take that job on.
Where did you get that toughness in your youth, Don?
Panning for gold.
Yeah, where were you panning for gold? Back in South
Adelaide Hills.
Okay.
Yeah. I did a lot of bushwalking as a scout. One of the great expeditions from that period was looking for Lassiter's Reef. So Fleming and I went way out into Central Australia looking for these quartz blows.
How old were you?
We had ordered photos from BMR, as it was called then, and checked out all the quartz flows west of Ayers Rock.
Wow.
When you were at uni?
Yeah, second year uni, that was our vacation.
Fantastic.
Very impressive. So I guess actually coming back to that, give a summary of your career path. So you started off saying about the first job hanging out the helicopter, and then realised maybe you needed to go and get a PhD so you didn't have to hang out of helicopters for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
What year did you graduate, John?
70.
Yep.
Yeah, so I went to North America to study. Those top guys, they attract students from all over the world, and it's a hell of a good environment to learn things. My project then was to theoretically model the EM response of a nickel sulfide ore body, and it was a massive computational problem. Back then it was 50,000 unknowns that had to be solved in a linear system of equations. And I spent some time looking for the big computers in the US, so I ended up going to Berkeley for a teaching postdoc, and they had a huge facility there, defense facility, and I was allowed to use that system to solve this linear system of equations. So I taught at Berkeley for a while, then went back to Western Mining and became their research geophysicist and worked very closely with Coggan, who's an enormous talent. As I said in his obituary, no one really understood the depth to which John thought through problems and worked solutions. Incredible talent. He also studied under Stan Ward, so we had a lot in common and we worked well together. Yes, I was research geophysicist for Western Mining, an operational geologist for a while. And then I convinced Woodall to buy the Aerodata multi-client data set. Spent 200 grand that he didn't have in his budget, and he got a shellacking for, apparently. And I was working on a team to find the next golden mile with that data set. A bit like Giles, who wrote in Pat's story of Aerodata, I was so impressed with what you could do with that data set that I thought I wanted to be part. This is going to change the world, and I wanted to be part of that revolution. So I jumped from a mining company to a service company, and that was the answer to one of the later questions, which is what are the big events in your life? Realising that if you wanted to impact industry practice, you were never going to do it within a mine. And so that's what I did. So I managed to make the shareholders angry in Aerodata.
That's an interesting observation, Don, about saying if you want to influence, because there's a lot of perception that, you know, the good jobs are in the mining companies and
That's
the
right,
service
there is.
companies are kind of like also rans.
Yeah.
That's a massive perception. I've even heard the lecturers at Curtin say that if you want to go and work for a mining company or an oil company, you've got to sort of do honours, and if you want to do, I remember them saying you've got an honours and a PhD, and if you want to work in a service company, you can get away with a basic degree. I was absolutely stunned. But that's always been my perception. That's a really interesting view. That's right, but it's a really interesting observation. I don't think it's that well known in the industry, or not really recognised.
Not recognised.
Publicly.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt on.
Yes, I made the shareholders of Aerodata angry, and then I became one of the whole PC revolution passed me by. So, you know, I had a PA at Aerodata, and I couldn't use Word. I couldn't do anything. So when I left, I was floundering. So I taught myself PC language through internet share trading. I used Excel to see exactly how much I was losing. And I got involved in internet stockbroking because I was using their software. I got to know the management, and I asked them about their management information systems. One of the issues in Aerodata was the management information systems. You know, Ron Cray was flying 3 or 4 aircraft in Indonesia, and he couldn't work out whether we were making money or not. So I said to these Chinese Sanford Securities, I said, have you guys got good management information systems here? Because they were growing at 20% per month. Aerodata grew at 20% per year. And they said, no, how do you do that stuff? So I'll come and help. And I became a director of an internet stockbroker of all things. Not that I could spell stockbroking, but I certainly could help them with the management information systems. So I did that for a year in preparation for NTERA, which was an internet-based business intelligence service. Spent maybe a decade there. And then I'd retired, and then my one-time friend Peter Williams came and asked if I could help at High Size part-time, 6 months. Don't you worry about it. And 11 years later, I was still there. And that was a spin-off from Curtin Uni, commercialising seismic for hard rock exploration.
Which is probably the next big thing out there.
Mm,
Slow
definitely.
road, but it's that's certainly the third dimension
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
been slow to recognise. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Turning brownfields projects into greenfields projects by looking 100 metres further down.
Further down,
Yeah.
there you go. Excellent.
yeah,
What about you, Dars?
Yeah.
Summary of your
Dales.
career?
No, so we where we left off was a really good honest project working with Peter Gunn, which was a really great project in all ways. And then I graduated at the end of '74, which was kind of a year past the bust of the nickel boom. And Don mentioned IP during the nickel boom, and there were companies floated on IP anomalies, literally. And so the big bust happened, and geophysicists were my perception then as a wee boy in Melbourne Uni, sort of looking for a job, was that geophysicists were actually blamed for the bust of the nickel boom. So jobs for geophysicists were just not there. I mean, by today's standards, I maybe didn't, look all that hard, but I had a look around and wasn't anything there. So I had to talk to the famous Lindsay Thomas, and he said, "Well, what do you want to do?" And I said, "Well, I really like hard rock, exploration sort of stuff." And he said, "Well, don't stay here."
knock the phones over.
There were kind of silly MSc projects there. So look, go to Adelaide. That's the kind of centre of teaching of mineral exploration and things, and he's shown a few skills with gravity. So I know a bloke over there. So he sent me to Adelaide to Davey Boyd, who Don had studied under earlier, and Boydie had Adelaide Uni had a whole bunch of stuff going with Broken Hill and Broken Hill Mine Managers Association. So there were just projects upon projects. Davey said, "Yep, whatever you want to do, MSc project, that'll be cool." The BMR were just about to fly the main part of the Broken Hill block with Aeromag at 300-metre line spacing. Ooh. So that was kind of revolutionary, and that was kind of in the mix, but that wasn't the main focus of the thing. It was really just, well, we've been doing stuff on Broken Hill. You can be the next postgrad student in a long line, including Jenks and various others who'd done others names that you'd remember. But so I went there and started this MSc project, and by happy chance, the departmental tutor's job came along. So Boydie tapped me on the shoulder one day and said, "The tutor's buggering off." He said, "How'd you like that job?" No, yeah. So it was really soft job, really well paid for the time, but got a tutor's job. And he said, "And we'll just tweak that MSc and we'll make it a PhD project." So that's what happened, and I mean, the PhD project was fun and all that, but it wasn't sort of a revolutionary thing. Over the point, but I'm happy with the PhD project. It did good stuff, but it wasn't sort of groundbreaking. It was just a way to keep learn new skills and get paid for being tutor, which had its own sort of side story. But then come 78, 79, gold was starting to happen and jobs were starting to appear. And the short of it is that sort of mid 79, there were ads going out, and I applied for two jobs, one with Western Mining and one with BHP. And the job with Western Mining, I'm pretty sure, was in Cal, and the job with the BHP was in Perth. And yep, tick, yep, boop, boop, boop. So applications in, getting to the end of my PhD work, have written a paper for the presentation for the very first ASEG conference in Adelaide, and scheduled to talk day one, straight after morning tea. Shitting myself, as you can imagine. And morning tea time, the old Don, what's his name?
Anderson?
No.
Esdale.
Don Esdale from Western Mining came to me and said, "Dave, you got the job if you want. Oh, okay. Oh, looking at my notes, shit himself. And then Hugh Rudder came around the other side and said, "Oh, Dave, you got the BHP job." So I didn't help my performance at this presenting his paper. It wasn't terrible, but when it was over, I was so happy. And the obligatory kind of ASEG dinner, it was, I'm into it, and I've got these 2 live jobs, and I'm deeply indebted to Dave Robson because he came up to me, and he was the thank you, Graham.
Thank you.
What a gentleman.
I don't want to blame the chairs.
You can.
This is about you guys, not me.
So Robbo kind of collared me. Cheers. At this at the dinner, and he basically laid out the next 3 years of my life doing as the captain of the gravity survey team on the Stewart Shelf. And I thought to myself, I've kind of done that. I've done my 1,000 or 2,000 stations at Broken Hill. But it's all right, Dave, because the job will be in Adelaide. And that's where you live. I thought, And then Huge came through and said, "Oh, no, we won't send you to Perth. We'll send you to Melbourne because we know that's where you came from." So anyway, I picked Hugh, and I think it was probably the right call. I was into BHP, had 7 really good years there, and the short of it was transferring across to Perth, Goldfields and Leonard Shelf. Leonard Shelf was great. But Goldfields was fun, and then same as Don, the Pat and the Aerodata crew started doing this stuff, and I thought, oh, how good's that? And I basically, when Pat and crew announced that they were, I think it was after the announcement that you were going to join after Graham had died. So I was aware that Don was coming on board, but I heard that this World Geoscience thing was happening. We were hearing stories about Pat's exploits around the world, being the entrepreneur, buying companies, and the mag is good. So I phoned up Pat and I said, "Look, you need me," something like that. Pat's got a different story, but he was, as he always is, amenable to new stories. So joined Aerodata and had another 7 years of excitement, fun, terror, but always fun. We'll maybe come back to the ISA thing, but had 7 years there, and then kind of hit the plateau. And my old geophysicist mate Nick Lim came through the door in Perth one day and said, basically, I'm getting the Texas Rangers together to do a little company exploration stuff. I've got a company, I've got a little bit of cash, got a chairman. There's me. Are you? I said, yeah, I'm up for it. So I joined Nick's little band of men, and so that was 93. Probably had 15 years in that group, doing various things. Did 5 or 6 different listed companies. All had their moments of success. I think all made shareholders kind of happy from time to time. But as I got older, and during that time, there was very little technical. There was sort of exploration manager-ish tasks, but it was mainly kind of keeping the company rolling and all that sort of boardroom shit that keeps you away from the exploration coalface. So it was kind of good, but I was always hankering to get back to technical stuff. And at the point where I became chairman of several audit committees, I thought, yeah, that's probably the thing. So, and some of those companies were going on to other things. So about 2015, 16, I departed that system and phoned up Bill Peters, and he organised a meeting with Bill and Kim and Bruce. And I said, well, I'm just keen to get back to do some technical stuff. Don't want to work full time. And I said, I've got half of my working year is available if you want it. And Bill said, so that'll be 183 days. I said, no, Bill, that'll be maybe 100 days.
Welcome back to consulting.
And that's
Service company.
That has transpired. So I'm still do bits and pieces with Southerns. And along that journey, of course, back in the Irridata days, we cranked up this course, and that's been kind of a constant thing, like 5, 6, 7 outings a year doing that course.
Fantastic.
That's
it.
me. Here I am.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
I have some ideas, Don, on the significance that you've made in terms of your impact on the career, but I'm also interested in what you think the most important milestones in your career have been for yourself.
Yeah, well, 2 really, only 2. One was getting married to Jose. We got married when we were 21, and prior to that relationship, I was destined to go down to Antarctica and basically spend a life very different from what I ended up spending having married Jose. She made it pretty clear that she wanted a partner who was around instead of being out in the bush.
Or in
And,
Antarctica.
Yes, so that was a positive. The second positive was actually the appreciation that industry practice is impacted by service companies. So I had a situation in Western mining where Ike Schulman got hold of Roy Morgan, who was managing director of Western Mining, and said this rapid rip-off RRMIP was something that was worth a hell of a lot, and Western Mining should buy into it, and there's only a 2% royalty on anything that the technique finds. And so it filtered down through the system to the humble research geophysicist, and the question was, is this stuff any good? And we were heavily into Zong systems then, so we just programmed the Zong system to do the same thing with a Syntrex magnetometer. And I spent quite a bit of time researching these magnetic IP effects, which in summary are about depending on the situation, about 1/3 of the amplitude of electric IP effects. That was our conclusion. So I sent that back up, didn't hear anything more, and I thought, bloody hell, that promoter, he lives out there, he just makes a phone call to the managing director of Western Mining, and my life has changed like that. That was, and then I negotiated the deal with Pat to buy the multi-client data and got involved in that, and I thought, actually, this is the way for me in the service industry, being part of this revolution instead of just a user of it. So they were the meaningful points in my life.
I want to add one thing on what important milestone in my career, because it actually involves you. So I remember in World Geoscience in Brockway Road, that big sort of processing area, and I was sitting in there doing something or other, I don't know, and it was, I think it was when we first, well, I guess we'd already been flying airborne geophysics for petroleum in the US, and I guess there was more happening in Australia. And I remember, I don't know who the processors were, but I remember you came walking in and the processors go, oh God, here comes Don again. Here comes Don again. He's going to tell us what we've done isn't right. But it is. We've done everything right. We've processed the data. There's no busts in it. There's nothing. And you walking over and them saying, but we've done it all right, Don. We've done it all right. And Don, and you go, I don't care what you've done. I want to see this in the sediments. This is what I want to see in the geology. I know it's there in the geology. Don't tell me you've done it. Go away and work out how you can find that in the geology or in the data. And that's when all some of the depth slicing and all of that evolved. And I always remember that, every time I've done anything, because I've heard of a pretend geophysicist, is I'll say to the real geophysicists I work with, this is what I want out of the data, and sort of work it out. Mm. But it was interesting because you were putting a lot of pressure on the processing guys, but actually that was how breakthroughs happened. The industry didn't know. The sediment industry, it's the same thing. It's still in the oil and gas industry. They still think magnetics isn't good. They still think gravity isn't good. And then you show them a data set where they can actually see stuff in the sediments, and they go, oh, that's pretty interesting. And I'm still hauling out examples from World Geoscience days. They're still some of the best around. Yeah. So that was a real significant thing in my career. That was, and in everything else you've done, you know, all the interior and high size, it's always been the same thing. This is what the technology is, but this is what I want it to do. This is a vision, by asking the questions that are important. So you probably
thank
do all
you for
that stuff without even realizing, but you know, those sort of milestones of, you know, you say it's working the service companies, but it's actually making the step change of the service companies because of your vision, but also your tenacity to keep going on them. So
Yeah,
I've just added one. There you go.
but the reality is all that was possible because of the team that was sitting in World Geoscience. I mean, Ian Campbell is one of the total unsung heroes in airborne magnetics.
And he responds to that challenge every time.
Yeah.
I'll find a way to do that. And so many examples in our time, and of course Matt was one of his
Disciples.
Disciples, that's right.
Yeah, he was the abbot, and what you guys were the monks, I guess. But,
We were, yeah.
but it's still, you know, interacting with Ian. I can work out how to do that, and nothing in the literature or data sets will stop him trying to do stuff, and that sets him aside from so many other people who write software, and there's a few names I could throw out and say, okay, that doesn't work, and this is why it doesn't work. Okay, I'll go on to the next thing. Whereas Ian would say, no, there's got to be a way to do that. And the you know, low latitude RTP, I still think that his approach, his determination, and the way that he kept banging away with data, where other people sort of, you know, tried and sort of succeeded and published sort of half-assed papers, he actually made it happen. So that's, you know, and that's with prodding from people like yourself.
Yeah. I still remember some of the North Sea data sets. They were contoured at 100th of a nanotesla, and the stuff of several hundredths of a nanotesla was the same as what was in the seismic. It's mind-boggling.
That's almost lost now again.
Yeah,
that's
the data sets I've seen recently. Not that I look at many. There's just nothing like it.
Yeah.
What the milestones?
Well, finishing the honours project, that was fun. It was a good project. Loved it. Finishing the Broken Hill project, I still like the work. I mean, you know, by today's standards, no way it's worth a PhD, but it was good project, good fun, and it led to kind of good things. I guess there were no, you know, big milestones within BHP. I guess making the phone call to Pat and having him say yes was a milestone. Similarly, you know, going into I suppose along that journey, having Alistair and Rick Valenta say, look, we need to put a course together like this, because what you've been doing previously is a load of crap, was a milestone, and you know, obviously I kicked in, but Alistair said this is the way we'll do it. Rick sort of brought in a whole bunch of special kind of, you know, structural geology flavour, and the course kind of happened, and that recipe has kind of stood the test of time. So you know, Rick and Alistair have gone off into other things, and I've just kept going down the same kind of path. But you know, that was a milestone. You know, career-wise, and then you know, going into the corporate side of things, we did some great things. I mean, the funnest thing there was definitely the Falcon thing that we did. Because we're a bunch of ex-BHP geophysicists, you know, Tom and Phil taps on the shoulder and said, look, we need an Australian company to run the Falcon, and they need to be doing exploration things. And we said, that's us. And we had a lot of fun, you know, went to the brink of a couple of good discoveries, one which is still very live. And I just recall that Falcon time, which was 5 or 6 years, as being really good fun, doing good technical stuff, working with old mates. So, you know, there was Phil Harmon and Nick. Tom Whiting was involved then on the BHP side, Chris Anderson, and they were all all old mates, and we're doing this, cutting edge shit together, exploring new grounds, making, great JV deals. So that was kind of the highlight of that. And there's other stuff that we did corporately, but that all comes to an end. And then I guess making the call at the end of that, and I guess nudging 60? I probably was, and thinking, maybe it's time just to bow out of technical stuff, but maybe not. And talking to Bill and Bruce and Kim and having them say, yeah, come and play some games with SGC, and that was a good call that I did that. Yeah.